Right, hello everybody, and welcome back to Inky Thoughts. Today we're going to be talking about something quite interesting, and despite knowing that my guest, who I know quite well by now, would rather be talking about bats, as that seems to be her favorite topic on the planet, we are going to be talking about a different kind of flying mammal today, which is, or at least a mammal that tends to fly a lot as part of what they do, which is tattoo artists. And my guest might have more than a little bit of experience with traveling in that profession, but I think she would like to introduce herself before we get any further into this topic. So please, Alicia.
Hello. So my name is Alicia, or Xia, as people know me. I'm a tattoo artist born in Spain, but I work from Australia. And yeah, I travel a lot for work. I specialize in dark neotrad or gothic neotrad. Yeah, and pretty much I specialize in bats and vampires and things like that, in large scale. Yeah, so I think that's a good summary of what I do and who I am.
Yeah, so bats, tattooing, and gothic shit. That's a pretty good summary.
Yeah.
But
Well,
yeah. But you even worked at a bat rescue. Not to digress, but you did work with rescuing bats as well in Australia at one point.
I did volunteer for a while when I lived in Northern Australia. That was great. Yeah.
But very conveniently for our topic today, you are actually on tour, so to speak, right now.
Yes.
In the States.
Yes. My first time here actually has been incredible.
That's awesome. Just because people are probably going to be wondering, where have you been in the States
so far?
Right now?
Okay. Let me try to remember, because when I booked this, I don't think I thought much about it, and I booked way too many places in too little amount of time. So I've been to Austin, Texas. Then from there, we went to New Orleans. After that, LA. Now I'm in New York. And now I'm changing plans and potentially going to Boston, but I'm not very sure. And then Florida for the rest of the time.
Ooh, that'll be a long trip as well, Boston to Florida.
Yeah. And the other problem is that I've been doing this. Like, it's not like a nice transition. I've been everywhere.
Not much of a direction in how you're traveling this. Very much all over the place, back and forth.
There is a logic behind it. I haven't been thinking of my body. That's the problem.
Yeah, that's
fine.
But I mean, it's interesting because that's sort of part of one of the things I wanted to talk about today. Because spoilers of behind the scenes stuff. Me and Xia have talked about this before, and that's why I asked her to talk about this topic. Because unlike some artists that very much, and I get why they do this, talk about going on tours if they're rock stars is just all cool and there's no downsides to it. I think Alicia is very honest about some of the less glamorous parts of traveling as well, and some of the more frustrating bits. But to start out with a positive note, why do you think it's important for artists to travel? Tattoo artists more specifically.
I think it's important because you get to see how people work in other parts of the globe. Every place is a bit different. You're gonna learn techniques that are different. You're gonna learn styles that are different. It's just enriching as an artist, and the fact that we can do it, I think you have to take the opportunity if you can. And getting to know a little bit of the world. The thing is, and what I would like people to know is that it's not like a paid vacation, like people, oh wow, you travel so much. So I think that is going to come in further questions, but it's not just like traveling for fun. It's a lot of work and a lot of actual pressure and arranging beforehand. So it ain't that easy, but it is definitely enriching.
Yeah, I mean, I think this is a very good segue into one of my questions for today. But there is a lot more, even me who isn't an artist, but I've hung out with artists a lot, and I've talked to a lot of artists from all over the world. One thing that I think people often don't think about, especially younger tattoo artists, is how are they going to have clients when they get to a new place?
Yeah.
Because some people think, oh, the studio they're going to be guesting at is just going to take care of that, but that's not always the case.
No. Sometimes they do, especially if you have made some form of like friendship with these people, like they're gonna want to help you. So having your connections is good, but you have to try as hard as you can to find those clients yourself, at least to have a safety net. Sometimes doing conventions is a good idea if you don't have much of a market in those countries that you're going to. So in conventions you can always do flash, this ways to bring those clients in. So if the shop is not helping you out and you can't find the clients yourself, a tattoo convention might be a good way to go.
But that's the thing, you do need clients because, as you said, it's not a vacation you're going on.
Yeah, exactly. So, the typical Instagram, blah, blah, blah. Hey, I'm here. Some people pay for promotion. It's not what I like to do because I don't like those. Like, I don't like how Instagram has changed. We have to pay for all these things. Like, I definitely don't. Luckily, I had the main reason for me to be here in the States is because I had already a big following from the States for some reason that I don't know. And a couple of the shops I'm guesting at have helped a little bit finding those clients. But again, there's conventions that I'm coming to with 0 clients. I'm just making a vast amount of flash. So you find some clients that way as well.
Yeah, I mean, that's just the thing. You have to be, as you say, prepared and like flexible. You have to figure out, okay, so because I can imagine as well, if a client cancels on you and you've traveled quite far, if you were back in Melbourne where you normally tattoo, you could probably send out the word and somebody might take the spot. But if you're in the States like you are now and you're not with your local clientele, that's a bigger deal when somebody cancels on like a full day.
Yes, and the problem is that most clients don't understand, though. They don't see it that way because, you're just a tattooist. They don't see it as like, oh, I traveled all over from the other side of the world to come here. Like, that's why it's really, really bad to cancel on us in these situations. But the most important thing, I think, is to budget everything well and to be prepared for, okay, what happens if everyone cancels? Do I have a plan B? So, as long as you plan everything well, you should be fine.
Money for a return flight.
Yeah, you have to try and budget it so at least you can make your money back.
Yeah, I think that's a very good piece of advice, to be honest. Try and plan for the worst, but be prepared for a great time, but prepare for the worst as well,
Exactly. And with this, most of the times it's like, again, the enriching experience. Traveling might not be as profitable, whatever, as staying in your area where you normally tattoo at, but definitely you're gonna get a lot of benefits out of it, like connections, or like, who knows, you might get a sponsorship because someone sees your work. It's just opening the door to a whole new world.
Yeah, I mean, I've at least met artists where they've gone to a convention and then, as you say, they meet a sponsor and suddenly it can escalate so far that they move to another country to then start working there instead. Because
exactly,
with the sponsor helping or anything that the career can sort of take off. Sorry, I had so many words I was trying out there. Second language skills. Alicia knows the pain well, even though she lives in an English-speaking country as well.
Yeah, I do that all the time.
And I've just moved back from one, so it's but anyways, this is a good segue into, are there some myths particularly about that you want to like dispel, like certain myths about traveling as a tattoo artist?
Well, the main one I'm thinking of, which we already mentioned, but I can explain a little further, is that this is like a holiday. Like, normally when I talk about, I'm going to the States, I've been in Europe this year, I'm going to New Zealand afterwards, blah, 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 and then I'm going back to Europe again. Most people, especially people with a normal job, they think it's just like, wow, you get to travel all around the world. That's fantastic. But they don't think of like, if I don't work, I don't get paid. Or all the planning that I have to do. It's not a vacation.
No, it's not just, we're going here and then we'll just see what we're going to see. Like this.
Exactly. In most cases, because you're prioritizing work. Not for me this trip. In this particular trip, I'm actually doing a lot of like holiday stuff. But normally when I travel for work, I don't see the place. Like, I see the way from my Airbnb or my hotel to the studio, and that's it. But people think it's just like a regular holiday, like family holiday, having fun, and then tattooing here and there a couple of days. No, it's mostly that you still have to do the designs for your appointments. You you're just working in a different place, if that makes sense. So I think one of the myths that people think of us is that we're traveling the world fucking enjoying a vacation, which is not the case. We're at the end of the day working.
I think again, you said it a bit earlier, but I think it's the Instagram thing as well. I think there's some good things that are definitely useful for the 2 hours on Instagram.
Yeah.
When you see some of the really famous artists that are traveling a lot, but they have the money and the clout to sort of go out and have more of a vacation every time. So people that aren't familiar with the culture or the industry will think like, oh, so they get to work, and then in the evening they're gonna go to cool like eateries and like sightsee and all that stuff. No, they're gonna answer emails and set up appointments and prepare for stuff and draw and all that stuff. Like,
a lot of people have much more fun than I do, I have to say, because I'm partying hard and all that stuff. I don't, because my body has a limit. And all this line is a lot. But yeah, it is a lot of organization and stuff. Most of these kind of dinners that you see and stuff is usually these people with the shop people, getting to know each other a little bit better. So it's not exactly like, oh, I just met these people. Wow.
No, exactly.
It's like, imagine that you have a regular job, let's say, and you have some form of like, you're working in another place or whatever, in another office, and then you have to go out with these office people. Like, it's a similar situation.
Yeah, absolutely. But I mean, there are some other things to consider as well here. And I've been thinking a lot about this because I think it's more on my mind, even though I don't work as a tattoo artist myself. But Brexit sort of has changed a lot of stuff here, at least for British and European artists who used to just, travel between the UK and Europe. Yeah. And then I started thinking about your situation as well, because you've been living in Australia for quite a bit. And also going to the States. How is it easy to get a visa to just go and tour in the States? Or was it not deal?
It is not very easy. So to my knowledge, the only visa we can get as artists properly is an O1, which is a talent visa. So you need to win awards. You need to, I've been doing a lot of prep for this, win awards, judging, this and that. So it's quite a bit. But I've heard of other visas that people have been getting, like investing and stuff like that. So there's ways around it. Some people as well come on holiday and things like that. So everybody's different, but that's something that I always tell people to actually read a little bit about, because they think, oh, I'll just broke up.
That's the thing. Like, and that's the thing I often hear from young artists as well. Oh, we're just gonna fly over there. No, you're not within the EU. You can't just drive your car to Germany and then tattoo. This is flying to another country where you need a visa to do this legally.
Yeah, I know. I've heard all sorts of stories, like especially with the UK, people just they can send their equipment and doing it on the Dodge. I know a lot of artists that have done different things. So, but the most important thing is that you do your research before going to any country.
And that's a lot more effort going into it.
Yeah, because even like there's countries that don't allow tattooing at all, like Japan and Korea. I don't know if Japan has changed a little bit right now.
Japan, it allows it, but Korea is very difficult. I mean, it's actually illegal there.
Exactly. So that's my point. Like, you have to do some research before going to any country. Once I had to go with my tattoo equipment back to Europe, and I had to do a stopover in it was Qatar or something like that, and I was a bit concerned, like, because I couldn't find any information if tattooing was legal or not, or is frowned upon. Like I didn't want to have any problems with my equipment in the airport, because I wasn't gonna tattoo there. It's just like for a day. So I was a bit like, shit. And I had to do a lot. Like, I had to make a lot of phone calls to the embassy. They wouldn't answer. So it takes a long time to actually do all this research and make sure that you're doing things right.
Yeah, that's the thing. Like, I know we keep circling back to it, but planning is so important with this.
Yeah.
Because also think about the new REACH laws in Europe for inks and that. I can't imagine what that may have caused with traveling, because you can't just bring your tattoo inks anymore.
Yes.
So, like there's so many regulations with that as well now, especially in Europe.
Yeah. I think people these days are saying, "Oh yeah, this is just for painting," but tattooers. Yeah, that's exactly. You need to know the rules. Even if you want to bend them, you need to know them. And yeah, I still can't believe that thing about the inks. This is real for me, but yeah.
Yeah, that was wild. I mean, it's been a bit now, and hopefully they're developing something that works by now. But I know this is digressing a bit, but there was a joke a friend of mine made, because in Denmark, just about 80% of tattooers just do black and gray, and most people you see just have black and gray tattoos. So my friend just leaned over to me when I was really angry about it one day when we were just walking and talking. He just said, "It's not going to make a difference here, is it?"
Yeah. That's it.
But I mean, there is it's quite horrible. There's a lot of inks that you can't just, and that's the thing. They also wanted to. I don't know how they're going to succeed with this, but I know that there are always people that want to do it the right way, and that's the people that is going to suck for the most. But they're also going to clamp down harder on, who's bringing what in, what type of inks are they bringing, what sort of machines, and all that stuff.
I think at the end of the day, that's going to be like changing developing the products, and that's what brands have to do to adjust to the new times. It happens with any other industry, hairdressing as well. Like they had problems with colors and they had to change their formulas, and so I think it's a matter of time until they adjust to that.
I think so. I think it's going to come quickly.
Yeah,
but it's just, that's also a thing to keep in mind. All these things that happen politically, they can also change. Okay, how am I going to go about this? Because we can all agree, and I firmly stand behind what you say here, that it's very positive and very a great learning experience, all that stuff. Like, it's such a great thing to go traveling as a tattoo artist, really, in any profession. Really, it's great to travel sometimes, but more so than anything, if you have equipment you have to bring with you and need to do your job, you need to know exactly how you're going to get that to happen.
Exactly, that's it.
Because else you're going to be out spending even more money. Then you need to buy a new machine, new inks, new cups, all that stuff.
That's it. So yeah, do your research, I guess.
I at least don't know of many studios where they're gonna be like, no, we're just gonna lend you all of ours. Like, we're just gonna take a little bit from every artist that work here and just collect what you need. That's
again, if you have a good relationship with the studio,
they're gonna help you out.
Yeah.
But that's gonna be a lot. I mean, I've seen the size of the tattoos you do.
What's that? Sorry?
It's gonna be a lot of ink you're gonna be borrowing though if it was you, because you do large tattoos.
Yeah, I am. Yeah, lately I am. But yeah, luckily I had all my equipment, so I didn't need any help with anything. Some conventions are actually very different than the ones in Australia, and like even depending on states and stuff, sometimes you arrive and you don't have certain things that you count on. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
You take for granted, like, oh, they're gonna sell this supply and they don't have it at all. So that's another thing. Like, you have to bring everything you can just in case. Well, in this country they don't have this stuff, or they don't provide this at the tattoo conventions.
I think that's a good myth to bust as well, because I think a lot of artists, again, that may not have traveled as much, think that, it's a global industry, it's going to be the same everywhere. Of course they're going to have, and they don't. There's so many different ways. Like, just look at how hygiene is in different countries. Like, yeah,
that's another thing.
In the UK and Europe, we're very much like, hey, wrap the machine as well. In the States, that depends on what state you're in and who you ask. Like, there's lots of people who are like, we're going to have gloves and they sanitize the area really well, but the machine is still not wrapped in plastic.
Yeah, that's it. In some states, they they asked me for to wear how do you call it, an apron?
Apron? Yeah.
Yeah, in some states, they were chill without it. I'm like, okay.
Isn't that more your clothes at risk? I mean,
yeah, I have an interesting approach to the apron, to be honest. Very few people use it. Depends what type of apron you're using. I find it as gross as your own clothes. Like, do you know what I mean? Like, if you're using a fabric apron, what's the difference with just using your own clothes?
Blood and everything in it as well. I mean,
that's it. And then
you gotta wash that shit anyways.
Yeah, and then people leave it at the shop, and that apron stays there forever unwashed. So I don't know what's worse.
I'd say I think it's better to come in freshly washed clothes.
Yeah, or use those disposable ugly ass aprons if you need to
Yeah.
do it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I have seen some people that put on the whole like with the t-shirt sleeves, plastic apron.
Yeah, I've seen
That's
people with
rad, but no. But again, that's the thing. Like I remember when I used to help run some conventions for a terrible job I had back in the day, but it was fun running conventions. That's one of the things we often got, like, oh, do you have this? And then some artists would get angry if we couldn't provide certain things because we don't have that in Scandinavia, you know?
Yeah, right. Yeah, that's it.
Or some people were like, hey, do you have this brand of inks I use? And we're like, no, we don't sell that here because there's 200 different brands around the world, and we have like the 3 big ones, and then we have some local ones.
Yeah. Yeah, that happens a lot. Then another thing is every place has their different qualifications that you need to get before the events and stuff. For example, where I'm from originally, Spain, you need to have like vaccinations and stuff.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. And when you do an expo, you have to actually show this little card that proves that you have hepatitis, but whatever vaccination and this and that. And you can't do the expo unless you have that. While you go to Australia and you don't need any of that.
I mean, that seems to be very much the vibe in Australia sometimes. Hey, the animals could kill you. We don't really care.
Yeah, well, depending on the state in Australia as well, you need to get like a course on and all that stuff. So
because
yeah,
I've heard about that, like even in big countries like Australia and the US, it can even differ within the country so much that if you don't do your research, you're shit out of luck. Like you can be told, well, yeah, you came to this convention, but you don't have X, Y, and Z we told you to get, so you can be here as a guest, but you're not tattooing. Like
yeah.
Especially if you travel far, that would suck. Like we had a guy from Singapore once. Luckily, that didn't happen to him. But imagine if he'd come to Denmark and didn't have something he needed or didn't have the right permissions or anything like that, and then he can just sit there and be a guest. And he's traveled from Singapore to like, oof.
Yeah. But that's the thing. People are always willing to help because they have been in that. Or they think of that situation and they know like, oh shit, yeah, that's pretty bad. So normally if you're doing a convention or you're doing a guest, you ask around and people have to help you, you know. So it's not too bad. You always find a way.
I think that is a thing that makes it easier to travel as a tattoo artist compared to other professions, that it is very much a big family often, especially when we do conventions, also in studios, so there will be people there that if they can, they'll help you.
Well, a big family, I think it's I don't know how to explain it, but I think when you're a guest and you're there for a short period of time, definitely people have to help. When you have been taking the dynamic ink for fucking a year and a half, they're pretty upset. So an interesting family, definitely, but a family.
Yes. I'm wondering, because we talked about the size of your tattoos earlier, is it easier to do large pieces when you travel, or is it better to do you think it's easier to do small pieces?
It's definitely easier to do small pieces, I believe, because you can print your flash, have it there, buy it, you don't have to worry about it. But when you have to resize it on the spot, you haven't seen the person because your consultation has been by email or whatever. Sometimes conventions, oh my God, actually some conventions have the worst printers ever. Like even big conventions, like really well-known conventions, you arrive and there's one printer for the entire convention. You're like, what the fuck? Anyway, but
funny enough, never been to a convention where there's not printer problems. I've never been to one.
Yes, but
never been to a convention where there's not
printer problems. I'm talking about a printer that just won't work at all. So yeah, my best advice is always print it beforehand if you can, and if you can't, just visit one of those print shops or whatsoever. So you don't have to do that at the expo. That's if you do large scale at least, because it's very stressing when you have to run around and try to size it up for your client. It might take an hour or two.
Exactly, like it's not just a small piece where you just then it's done. You're doing a full leg or full arm, and then
that's it. Sometimes it's just even easy to freehand. Like
Yeah.
Just freehand, you don't have to worry about the printing.
What would you say is the most important stuff to bring along with you when you travel as a tattoo artist?
I see materials and stuff.
Well, anything really. Like,
Honestly, look, as long as you bring your obviously your passport, all that shit. Bringing your machine is super important, and your inks. The rest can be always bought. Like,
no.
you don't want to buy a machine in another country that's going to cost you $2,000, but I'm saying, like, you can always buy the rest of stuff yourself if you needed to. As long as you bring that stuff, you're good. And yeah, all your permits and all that kind of stuff, because without it you can't tattoo. So yeah, that's pretty much it. The rest you can wing it. Like, in the worst case scenario, you can always wing stuff, and like things always come back into place somehow. But yeah, that's the things I would say don't forget.
Yeah, I mean, it's easier to forget your toothbrush than it is to forget the other stuff. You can
Mhm.
always buy a new toothbrush.
That's it. Even though oh my God, I've been buying so much stuff, my suitcase is packed.
Another piece of advice, do keep in mind you're going to be buying stuff, so you don't want to pack too heavily before you go.
Yeah, that's it. I've been trying to add one suitcase to all my flights and my flight back as well, and that's very pricey here. That's another thing. Like, some countries, like in Europe, if you add an extra bag, it's not that bad, but
No.
here it's really, really bad.
Oh, right. How bad are we talking?
I think it was like 100 and something US dollars per flight. Yeah, and bear in mind that I'm flying a lot.
Yeah,
so
that's holy shit, that's a lot of money.
Yeah, in some cases I'm flying first class, so that actually is included. Like, I don't have to pay.
A little bit of a humble brag there, Alicia, but okay.
You know what? I'm traveling with my friend, and he needs extra leg room because he doesn't fit in normal seats.
Okay,
So
okay. I mean,
that's the only reason.
Not that you're complaining though, but
I complain.
I mean, that sounds like the best excuse to get first class ever. Leg room.
Yeah. Well, you can always claim it back on tax, you know?
True. So, other than equipment, and I guess this is a little bit of a fun digression, but what is in your like must-bring list other than tattoo gear?
Well, this is gonna sound very stupid, but clothes. You know, clothes for all weather, because you can't even guess how it's gonna be. Like, for example, this trip I'm in Florida and California, which is sunny and all that stuff, but now I'm in New York, which is cold as fuck and rainy. So I've been having to bring my bathers, but at the same time my coat and my boots and flip-flops. You know, it's just everything. So it's very, very, very hard to pack light. But yeah, it's bringing a little bit of everything in case, just in case things change, or you cannot really plan those things, you know. What else? Not much more. Like, I wouldn't say don't pack too much, you know what I'm saying? So and if you have your passport, your basics for tattooing and that kind of stuff, like clothes that go all range, you're good.
Yeah, because we all know how it is being at the tattoo convention, and I imagine it's even worse when you're an artist and you also get stuff from people that you know, and that there's a lot of souvenirs to get.
Yeah, that's it.
Like, I've never come back from a convention without needing another bag of like for stuff you get.
Oh my God. Yeah, look, I'm doing a little bit of tourism, so that's my fault. And I'm buying a lot of stuff. I got like, you know, those Funko Pop vinyls, like the little... Yeah, I made my own, and that was sick. And then I ended up making myself twice because one wasn't right, and then I made two for friends as well. So that's there. Then I bought a lot of books, you know.
That is something that will weigh you down, books.
Yeah, that's exactly it. I actually had to send the package back to Australia, and it was $700.
Okay, shit. I'm more surprised you haven't bought any taxidermy, because you've been to Salem as well, right?
Yeah, but you
I
can't.
thought you would, like, this might just be my assumptions about you, Alicia. I thought you would for sure buy like a taxidermy black cat or something.
Okay, so this is where it comes to the do your research before you fly to another country. We can't bring that stuff back into Australia.
True.
Plants, animals, or
Well,
even
it's very
so.
strict, Australia as well.
Yeah, I think England would be also a bit strict with those things. But
I don't
yeah,
actually know the rules here in Denmark, but I think it's I think hmm, I think it's if it's within Europe, they don't really care.
yeah. But when
But as
it's
soon as
overseas,
you're coming from outside of Europe, they suddenly care a great
yeah,
deal about whatever you bring in.
that's it. So yeah, definitely taxidermy would be a no-no for Australia.
Oh man. So what's been your favorite part of the trip so far?
It's hard to say. Look, I thought I'm gonna like Salem the best because the kind of work I do and witchcraft. Well, but I found it very touristic, especially the time of the year I went to. Um, but I like California quite a bit. I just arrived in New York, so I can't say much about it, but I think I'm gonna
Mm.
like it. Yeah, so that coast was pretty nice. People were super friendly. There was a lot of Hispanic people as well, which was pretty nice because I got to speak some Spanish. Texas was great as well. I found
Yeah.
Texas very, very sweet and very, chatty and approachable. So yeah, there's not an area that I said, oh my God, I hated this. Like everything has been great. Um, but yeah, that coast was pretty nice. Might be the weather as well. I wish I went to Salem in a different time of the year
Yeah.
because yeah, it was really hard to walk around. It was just people everywhere, and
Yeah, I think
it,
you're too close to Halloween right now.
yes, and
To go to
people
Salem.
like they milk that cow. Like it's very 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 arranged, so it's just to make money out of people. Do this ghost tour, do this museum thing, do this, do that, and like it was a bit overwhelming.
Yeah, I can imagine that. I mean, I wouldn't be surprised if you heard about the witch trials, to be honest.
A little bit, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was a bit of a show, but I think I would like to come back in January or something, sometime that it has nothing to do with Halloween. Just to see in a different halo.
But Salem, that was just one of the touristy stops on your tour, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, there was
That's
no
all I.
tattooing there. I mean, I would imagine you would fit right in though with the Gothic style and a Salem tattoo shop.
That's another thing that I feel people need to know.
Yeah.
Sometimes you have to do a research as well on what the clients like where.
Yeah.
I found that my work usually does better in sunny places.
Yeah. That's the thing. You've told me that before because I remember
Yeah,
first time I ever spoke to Alicia I interviewed her a couple of years ago for something that never came out. You
yeah.
mentioned this as well, that you've experienced most people that are into the gothy kind of tattoos in sunny places, and that just goes against your commonsensical logic that you think, oh no, it's definitely going to be somewhere cold because it's all
It's
dark
actually
and black and all of that stuff.
it's actually very logical. I'll
Yeah.
tell you. So I think people that live in places like that are a bit tired of that stuff.
Mm,
For one reason, for example, you're from Denmark, right?
yes.
When Danish people come to Spain, they love everything. They love the sun, they love the beach, all that
Yeah.
stuff, and you guys enjoy that a lot, right? So you want to bring a little bit of that with you, right? And Spanish people is the opposite. When they go to Sweden or Norway or whatever up north, they just, oh my God, the darkness and everything is so cool. We like what we don't have. That's one thing.
Yeah.
And second thing, a place like Salem would have a lot of artists that do exactly the same I do.
Yeah, that's the thing.
So when you go to a place like, let's say, Florida, it's full of people that fantasize with all this concept of dark stuff because they don't have it, right? They wear shorts and everything is sunny all the time. So they dream more of that kind of stuff. So they want it more tattooed.
Yeah. I mean, I think
I,
there's absolutely some logic to that. I am the odd one out as I love cold places and I hate the sun, but I am also ginger. So
yeah. But I'm so you know what I mean. I'm so sure you have met a lot
absolutely.
of people from Denmark that go to Spain or Italy
Well,
and
yeah, I
they
mean,
love it because of
you
the
can
sun
easily
and
see it in sociology. my educational background, where you see, okay, yeah, people that are from colder places often migrate and seek warmer places when they go on holiday, and people that are from warm places find it sort of like adventurous in that they might also have read some of the fairy tale stories that are often placed in the cold north of the world, northwestern part of the world, so they're way more fascinated with going to those places.
That's exactly it. And even in Australia, I have the same experience. I think I have more work in places like Sydney or at Queensland in Brisbane area, which is warm. Yeah. Every time I go there for a guest spot, I have a lot of work.
It may also be from the other thing you sort of mentioned indirectly, that there are fewer people to compete with.
Yeah.
Because your style is also more unique, I think, around where you normally do.
Yeah. Yeah. But still, like, even though when you see my work...
I don't think there are many that do your style in general, but I mean, it's still even more rare, I think, regularly when you do Melbourne.
Yeah, exactly. Melbourne, for example, is super overcrowded with people that do black work. It's not exactly what I do, but it is somehow in that realm. So people get a bit lost choosing their tattoo artist. While when I go to, let's say, Sydney, I haven't found yet a tattoo artist that does what I do exactly, or even close. So yeah, I always have a lot of work over there. Same with like sunny places over here.
So back in Spain as well, you think?
Oh, Spain is fucked. It's so hard to book in Spain. I don't even try anymore.
All right.
Yeah.
I'm curious now. Why?
Well, as a traveling artist, you can't charge the rates you charge in your home because, you know, you have to be able to afford the hotels and the freaking everything, the flights. So you have to charge a little bit more to compensate, especially with the economy we're living in right now. And, you know, Spain is not doing great economically.
No, not at all.
So, yeah, even affording like regular price tattoos is hard, especially large scale. People just want small tattoos that they can afford, and a lot of them. So, yeah, it's definitely not the best place for me. That's the main reason why I don't live there anymore.
I think that's an important thing to actually... I hadn't even thought about that when I planned this interview with you, but that's actually an important thing to keep in mind as well, the economy, how it's hitting different countries and that. Because I think right now, for example, with the UK and how that's going one direction and one direction only right now, the UK, there's a lot more. I mean, I haven't seen anybody really moaning about it yet, but it doesn't seem like there's going to be the same form of busy climate around getting tattoos and that. Because usually the UK seems quite great for artists, and there's a lot of people that want tattoos in the UK. But even though it's cheaper than, for example, in Denmark, I think it's going to get very difficult to get that money together soon, especially in England, where it's really bad.
Yeah, so definitely the trends are switching. People prefer small pieces, one spot, quick. Also, I've noticed that with COVID, a lot of artists emerged from practicing at home, you know. Let's call them artists, whatever. But the problem is that there's too many people wanting to do those tiny little cheap tattoos, and because they have become trendy with people like freaking what's his name, Post Malone, you know.
No, I don't think that's the right one.
Yeah, but you know, like those little prison.
Oh yeah, on his face.
Yeah. So I think people now find those trendy and cool and whatever, and they go rather for the cheap, small, less artistic kind of pieces than large scale or like more heavily design based pieces. So it is definitely not the best time for artists that do my kind of work.
No, I can imagine, because I mean you see it on a lot of the boy bands and all that stuff, and singers people are into that. They just get these at most the size of the palm of your hand tattoos and plaster them all over, and then they go out and say, "Oh, it doesn't hurt to get tattooed. All right, try a day session."
Yeah, that's it. But again, times change, and I think it's just a matter of time.
I think it'll turn again, because I mean, what originally drew people, if you ask me, and I know we're digressing a bit from today's topic, but what originally draws people to larger scale pieces is, I think, the artistry and the level of artistry in those pieces. So I don't think it's ever going to go fully away, and I think it's going to absolutely come back, that people want larger tattoos again. Because I
Agree.
also think, and this might just be me, and I hope I'm not going to draw too much flack from this for my podcast, but as a sociologist that look at tattoos, and I think I've spoken to other people with similar interests within sociology as well, there's just a lot more commitment that goes into larger tattoos, and often that also makes people draw more positive effects from them. A lot of people that just get lots of small tattoos, they can be very meaningful, and they can look very cool on that. But a lot of them, it does become mainly for the trend sometimes, or mainly in the moment looking good, and that doesn't last as well for your identity, you could say.
Yeah.
That's when you either travel to get the perfect tattoo from an artist that does the style you really want, or if you take a chance with a traveling artist and get a large piece by them, because that does last more. There is more detail in it, there's more craftsmanship in it. Absolutely.
Yeah, that's exactly how I see it. But
I think, but also, a guest I had on recently, who's funny enough both a PhD in design and a tattoo artist from Manchester, he described it very well. Actually, he said it's two different clienteles. Even though we're seeing a lot of one of them, the people that go out and get like scratching or only really small pieces, they're one type of person, and the other people that go and get large pieces and really commit to like the art form and all that stuff, different kind of person in clientele.
Yeah, definitely. That's another reason why I go into large scale, because it's usually a client that respects you much more. They have waited, they have thought about it. It's a much better experience to work with them than someone that wants something cheap, quick. They just mostly waste your time. So it's a fact, and they do not respect you as much. I don't know what it is, but the more you price yourself and the more that it took them time to save and really want this tattoo, the better they treat you and the better the experience is for both.
But I think that's just the thing, like when it becomes this mutual project to some extent, because even if the client puts no input in, it's still a mutual project, even if the artwork's left all the way up to you as the tattoo artist, because they've also put time into saving, they've come up with the idea you're doing possibly, and there's just way more of a collaboration there, I think, which is why there's more respect. Whereas, and quick tattoos can still be great, they can be absolutely awesome, I'm not talking that down at all, do get the style that fits you, but there is less of it. It's also, even physically when you're in there, if I'm sitting getting tattooed by Xia for 8 hours, we are also personally getting to talk a lot more.
Exactly.
It's going to be very awkward, at least, if you're silent for the 8 hours and I don't get to talk, because I talk a lot.
Exactly.
If you're only there for half an hour, there's a limit to how much you can actually talk. And there's not a whole lot of artists that are like, oh, you were here for half an hour. Do you want to just hang out in the shop for like 4 hours now and we can get to know each other?
That is true. And, when the little amount of free time that I have, most of my friends actually came from tattooing. So,
that's what I want to mention. I think that's also why it's good for you to travel, because you also get to get more friends and meet people you may have befriended online and that, because it is a small world sometimes. Also, in the respect that there's few people that can understand sort of the hectic schedule that tattoo artists have. And
actually, I met a couple of artists that I used to talk to during COVID, or that I've done podcasts with. And oh my God, it was so great to actually meet them in person. So that was one of the best things.
I very much look forward to your episode on John's podcast, the Unemployable podcast. Which I've now have 2 tattoo friends that I also hope to meet in real life, Alicia among them, that have been on that podcast. So I hope that's a good sign for my own one.
Yay!
But it is a great one. It is a great one. Maybe they'll invite me on someday if this becomes big, even though I'm not a tattoo artist.
They're really sweet, to be honest.
Yeah, absolutely. They seem absolutely great. I take a lot of inspiration from what they do. It's very much not copying their style. I think they have a very unique style, the way John and Cam do it, where I'm way more nerdy and talkative and critical. That sounds weird. It's not that they're not critical. They just also like to just, talk shop with fellow artists, where I'm way much on the outside. Speaking of, we talked a bit about clients before. Is there stuff to keep in mind when it comes to clients, like meeting them when you travel as well? Because you are, going to different cultures and that. So I imagine it's not just
Yes.
I don't know if it's going to be difficult, but there must be stuff to keep in mind.
Yes. So obviously you're new to a culture. You have to understand that you are not at home, and people might behave a bit different than normally you're used to. I've noticed like there is a difference between, for example, Australian clients and American clients or European clients even. So yeah, just try to be patient and listen and try to understand that every place is a bit different.
Did you have any cultural shocks with clients on this trip?
Yes, I had an actual really bad experience. So
Oh,
I'm
shit.
like I'm flying with a friend because I was flying originally with my assistant, but she wasn't flying with me anymore. So he was a friend that is replacing her to help me out a little bit. And he was in my booth. And because he's a guy, a lot of people would come and they would shake his hand, but even girls, like that was what shocked me the most. They would shake his hand and be like, "Oh my god, your work is amazing, bro," and have a full-on conversation with him. And then he would say, "No, no, no, it's all her." They would give me a horrible, nasty look and keep walking.
Man,
Like that was shocking for me. Like, what the fuck, man? Like, I don't even get it, but it happened
fucking
many
hell.
times.
Like, that's so weird. Did they not see the banner? Do they think the man sitting there is called Alicia?
Mm.
I mean, I know we are living in 2023 and names, pronouns, all that stuff, very much supporting that. But I would say I have yet to meet a man named Alicia.
No, well, I don't use my name actually. I use
Oh yeah, you
she.
see it.
Could be anything, but
But still,
it's just odd. Like they'll
yeah.
go straight to him, and then sometimes when they realize it's my work, they will come like, "Oh, did you really draw this?" Like they couldn't like. It was so strange.
That's
Or
so bad. So bad.
yeah, or some people not giving me the time of the day, like even though they don't know who I am, what I do, or nothing. It's interesting.
Absolutely. But I think it comes down to, and I would very much imagine it's very different depending on where you are in the US.
Yeah.
I think if you have some of the more, what I would call culturally conservative parts of the States, and just to be fair, you'll find that in Denmark or the UK as well, and I bet even in Australia in certain areas.
Yeah.
Some people have just not reached the 21st century. I mean, the year 2023. They're just going to be like, oh,
Yeah.
fuck, it's a woman that did it. Oh, fuck that. Like,
Even though this happened, for example, in New Orleans, which might be a bit more conservative, but also happened in LA.
yeah, but yeah, it's just
So
some people are just not getting with the program. It's a
I
shame.
I know, but at the end of the day, it does affect us. Like
Yeah.
same
Well,
with potential
yeah.
sponsors. It happens. That happens with people you actually want to get along with.
Yeah.
So yeah, just keep hustling, I guess. But yeah, it was surprising that it happened here so many times because it happened to me in Australia as well, but not that often.
Yeah.
That's why I find traveling with the male, which is ridiculous at this age, but I find it much more beneficial for me at the end of the day because it helps me much more. Like at least people approach and come and talk.
It is a shame that
Yeah,
can be
it
beneficial. Like it shouldn't have an effect
it is
at
absurd,
all.
but
But yeah,
what can I do?
yeah. I mean that sadly requires, as I can very much vouch for as a sociologist, collective effort to change stuff like that. Of course, we
Yeah,
can all do stuff on our own, and everybody should do stuff to be better. But it requires
yeah.
a lot of people doing that too.
Maybe
Actually,
maybe I should rock up with a mustache and be like, "Hey,
ah, I mean that's just gonna draw on old stereotypes about Spanish women. Like,
and you know what? I don't care."
I don't know. Just to sort of round off on a positive note, what's been the most positive client experience you've had on this trip?
Oh, well, look, I had a couple of clients that have been amazing, like just sweet, so adorable. Like one of them, she has been following me since I was doing the bat rescue. So we're talking about
Wow.
2017 or so.
Yeah, that's
And
about the same amount of time I've been following you. That's a long time as well.
that right. So she's been following for such a long time. And because we've never been close to each other. She she never got a tattoo from me, and she has been saving up ever since. And she treated me so well. Like we were almost friends, right away. It was just so great. And the fact that she waited for so long to get a piece by me, that was so humbling and so cool. So yeah, definitely that was one of the best. I had a couple of clients. I had a client that supported me over COVID. He bought all my prints, all my t-shirts, everything, and now he's getting tattooed by me. It was fucking amazing. So there's definitely great people here. So yeah, those two were insane.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Well, Xia, I've been keeping you away from your trip in New York City for an hour now. So I think here at the end, would you please let the people know what you have going on and where they can find your stuff and that?
Well,
sorry, that took me by surprise.
That's because I have to think that one. So I'm gonna be here for another month. Then I'll be back in Australia. I'm taking bookings in Australia until January, where I'm gonna start traveling again. My Instagram is Xia_tattoo, so Xia Tattoo, and yeah, that's pretty much where people can find me.
Did you ever get the jewelry project going, or?
Oh, I did a few pieces during COVID. And that was great. I never scaled it really because I had to find, where to make them properly and stuff. But I'd like to keep going with it.
But to anybody listening or watching, one thing I can recommend, if you like gothic tattoos, Xia's definitely the one to go to if you ever have the chance where she's traveling. The other thing is, and even though I've myself yet to buy one because I have sadly not been in the best financial situation, she also makes awesome merchandise, t-shirts and that even if you're not into tattooing, if you like gothic clothing styles and stuff like that, absolutely worth checking out too.
Thanks,
and a lot of stuff with bats, because that's just how Xia is.
Yeah, man, you can't get rid of my bats. Someone asked me the other day if I ever get bored of tattooing or drawing bats. I'm like, no, man.
I mean, I did see a meme I almost wanted to put up as a teaser for interviewing you, where you the clip they did for Inked, I think, where you just said that. So what is the thing you never get tired of tattooing? And Xia, in a frenzy almost, starts saying bats over and over again.
Like crazy. And then my friends made memes about it.
Well, Xia, it's been a joy as always to talk to you. And thank you very much for coming on. And to anyone listening, we'll see you in a couple of weeks.
Yay!
Well, everyone, I hope you enjoyed that episode with the awesome Xia Tattoos from Down Under, and, well, as we know, by route of Spain originally. We've gone around a lot of topics to do with traveling as a tattoo artist, both the more fun sides, what you get out of it, the benefits, and the awesome knowledge you can get from traveling that's indispensable, but also some of the realities. So I hope it's been very educational. To go on, we next time we'll be talking to Delphine Neustoy, someone who I know for a fact within the tattoo community went a bit viral for, ironically, I guess we could say, talking about some of the massive demands there is on tattoo artists regarding social media these days. So it's going to be a very interesting topic next time. We're going to be diving into what it means for tattooing social media, both the good and the bad side, and talking about some of these somewhat unrealistic demands that are put on tattoo artists that technically we could say might not have anything to do with tattooing. So it's going to be interesting. It's hopefully going to be educational as always, and I hope you'll enjoy that episode as well when it comes out in a little while.